Hi everybody, this is Agla with Women ADV Writers again, and today I am super pumped to welcome Chantal Simons. You probably already know her. She's written all over Australia and then written her 250, right? From Australia all the way through Asia back to Europe, to the Netherlands, and then she's gone back to Australia. She's written an awesome book. If you want to find it, just have a look at the description below. And Chantal is now onto a whole new adventure, which is what we're going to talk about. Chantal, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome to talk to you.
So what's going on with you right now? I know you're back in Australia. I know you still have a bike. What else is new? What's going on?
I left my XT250 that I did all the traveling on in Europe with my parents, simply because shipping it over was going to cost a lot of effort and money. And after a big trip, that's sort of the kind of things that you don't have anymore. So after a few detours, I got back to Australia, and I'm doing a PhD in sports psychology at the moment, and got myself not one bike, but I got myself two bikes now. I've got a Husqvarna TR650, which I use to commute to work, which is a great road bike, and you can take it on a dirt road, no stress. But recently I got a WR250, which I'm using now to go up on the beach and ride in the forests and stuff, which is great, because I've never had a bike that I could actually just throw around and play with that wasn't loaded up with like 40 kilos of my entire lively possessions.
I am so jealous. The WR250 sounds like such a fun bike. I've heard so many good things about it. I'm just curious, do you still improvise? Because I remember your luggage. It was a really awesome concept of two suitcases, right? That was really, really cool.
Yeah, that was my first setup. And then on the XT250, I then went to having some aluminium heart panniers, and that didn't really work on that small bike. It was just not really gelling with the subframe too well. And then I went to having army backpacks as panniers, which actually worked quite well. At the moment, I don't have a rack on any of my bikes, so the improvising just goes up and up and up, where I put a big bag and then a smaller bag and then a backpack. And at some point I will get myself some proper panniers. I promised I am going to get myself some proper panniers and a rack to go on the bike. But I guess when you get used to improvising that much, it just becomes part of you.
For sure. So I know when you did that big trip, you wrote a book about your Australian travels. And
Yes.
again, if you want to find that book, it's in the description below. Can you talk a little bit about that and whether there's going to be a sequel about your Asian adventure?
Um, I wrote a book about traveling around Australia while I was traveling through Asia. Um, the reason I started doing it was because a lot of people said, "Oh, I can never do what you do," and my immediate response was, "Well, you can. Anyone can go on big trips. It's just about how you basically lead into it, and it's all about your commitment to it." So instead of just saying, "Oh, anyone can do that," I decided, well, you know what, if I just write down my story and then people can read how I've come to do the things that I'm doing, how I came to actually travel halfway across the world, um, then they have a bit more context. And I'm just an ordinary girl from a middle-class family who just decided to do things differently. And I think there's a lot of people who can do that. So that was a reason to write the book. I did it as I was traveling through Asia because I had the time. And taking that time was quite valuable. I stayed in a few places a lot longer than I intended to, but it was good to connect with the people there. It was good to write a book. It was a great experience. And originally I was planning to just release this book as a sort of a warm-up for the book about the bigger trip. And then this book started taking up more time, and it started getting bigger. And I'm still sort of focusing on this book and sharing this story. There will be a book about the Asia trip, but between being a PhD student and doing the other things that I'm doing, which I hope we're going to talk about soon, I'm not finding much time to write this book, to be honest.
That totally makes sense. So on to those other things, like we've been talking before, it seems that a lot of women who take these big trips kind of don't come back the same, and they either continue traveling or they completely change careers, or at the very least, they kind of incorporate motorcycling, adventure riding into their daily lives one way or another. And it's just fascinating to me to see how these people either change or what they do next. So what's next for you?
First of all, I think a lot of us who go on these big trips, we go because we want to see more. We want to see that there's more to life than just doing a 9 to 5 and maybe going riding on the weekends. So from this quest to figure out what else there is in life, we go and explore the world, but inevitably we explore our own minds as we sit on a bike for hours a day. When we come back to normal life, things have changed. Like, the world hasn't changed that much, but we've changed, and we're going to have to find our place within that world again, where we feel comfortable in what we do every day. And I think a lot of us also notice that we can inspire other people to do their bike trips, whether it's bike trips or bicycle trips, or whether it's just moving to the next city. So I think a lot of us feel this need to share experiences, inspire others, and be there for other people. In my case, what I'm working on is organising things that I'm calling Riding Mind motorbike weekends. So I talked about it a little bit before. When we spend a lot of time with ourselves in a helmet, we get to actually explore our minds. And we get to dig a bit deeper. And often we get stuck in negative spirals. And when you travel a lot, when you ride a lot, you also learn how to deal with your own thoughts. And I want to share those experiences with other people because I think it's very helpful. I took 15 months on a big trip to have a closer look at what I want in life. And you don't need 15 months. You can do it in a lot less time if you know how to, and if you get the right tools, and if people help you with it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm organising weekends where I take people on rides. But more than that, I'm going to share some psychological tools, some things like mindfulness, and doing some goal setting. We're doing some introspection, all these kind of cool things. And we're just putting that all into one weekend, and getting people to have a closer look at themselves, at their lives, at their riding experiences. And so far it's been really exciting.
So this is very interesting because it's also, I don't think I've ever heard of a tour or a weekend ride or whatever like this, because normally tour leaders emphasize the adventure part or the motorcycling part or the traveling part, but never quite, the mindset part or the mental skills part. So could you talk a little bit about why is that important and what happens during such a ride? I want to go. I'm curious now.
So first of all, why is it important? I think that a lot of people they use their bikes for helmet therapy. I have a lot of friends that say, oh, I need to go, I need my helmet therapy now. And they jump on their bikes and you know, when you ride often, well, you either do a lot of thinking while you ride or you don't do any thinking at all. And it's just you, the bike, the road. And it's just this sort of flow state that you get in. And both ways of doing it are very conducive, like they're super helpful for yourself, for your mental health, for your happiness. And so what one of these rides is going to look like, I've done one with a group in New Zealand, which was quite awesome. We had 2 days and we got together, and what we do is we do some reading. I share some stories and some experiences. People open up about their own experiences, and then we go on the bikes and we ride around and we see awesome things. And basically we do sort of seminars or workshops and a bit of riding, a bit of mindfulness, maybe some meditation, those kind of things. Now, a lot of people will go, oh, that's a bit too fluffy for me. But really it's not. It's quite grounded, quite down to earth. And it's just a bit about exploring yourself as you explore the world on a bike.
Mm-hmm. It seems to me that riding is a lot about being in the present moment, because you kind of have to, you're kind of forced to, right? Because you have to pay attention. Yes. But at the same time, you know, if you're not planning one of those big trips and big adventures, whatever, if you can only afford for now, you know, because of family or work or both or whatever, if you can only do those day rides or those weekend rides, especially if you're riding on your own, it can kind of get repetitive. So are there any, I don't know, tricks from your tours maybe? How can you make that ride more purposeful maybe? Or more interesting, or just more, I don't know, how can you maybe learn something from the ride, even if it's just the same ride that you've been doing for a while, but can you kind of make it different?
One of the things is, if you when you're riding, try to focus on the environment around you, because we are quite, but even when I ride to work, I do this. I have to look around and I go, oh, let's go find some palm trees. I live in paradise. I live on the Sunshine Coast in Australia, and I didn't grow up here. So every time I see a palm tree, it makes me smile. So I sit on my bike and I ride and I look up and I look around, and without taking my attention away from the traffic, you can actually see a lot more if you just widen your vision. So I look for palm trees and like, oh, that's a palm tree there, that's a palm tree there. And by doing that, I literally take myself out of this grumpy state and I get into a really happy place where I see palm trees everywhere. It's such simple things that you can do that can change your commute to work or your weekend ride. So yeah, that might be something that someone can do.
What about mental skills when it comes more to sort of the psychology of riding, for example, self-confidence? It seems to be a pretty big issue. It certainly is to me still. I've been riding for 5 years now. That's not a long time, but at the same time, it's a sizable chunk of time, I think. But I still have my moments, you know, and I still have all kinds of doubt. And I'm sure, and I mean, I've talked to so many women, and they all mention confidence and self-confidence as something that they would like to have more of. So do you have any tips for them and me?
You kind of broke up a little bit there, so I missed the last part of the question.
How can we as writers have more confidence in ourselves as writers, as travelers, as adventurers?
Okay. I think one of the things with confidence is, and I believe there's a blog or a piece that I wrote for women adventure riders that's called "Confidence is a Verb." When it comes to confidence, you only gain it by doing it. And when I say that, I mean, if you say you're a bit uncertain about riding off-road, well, you're never going to get confident riding off-road if you never do it. So you've got to take that first step. And then when you take that first step, I suggest take some other people with you who can show you some tricks and tips, as well as if you do come off your bike, there's someone there to look after you. So either take a course or go with some friends and build your confidence. When it comes to going on bigger trips, there might not be people around you in your physical environment that have done that kind of stuff that you can ask for advice, but the internet is a great place to find information, and you'll find that a lot of people who have done these trips, as I said, it changes our lives, and we're quite in a good place that a lot of us have reached after traveling. So approach someone, ask them what they have done, how it worked for them, what are some things that you have to look out for, what are some things that you have to put in place. And I think taking little steps every day, that's probably the most important thing. So someone said to me before, and I can't remember whose quote this is, it says, feel the fear and do it anyways.
Yeah.
And I don't mean stand on the side of the building, look down, feel the fear, and jump without any precaution. But acknowledge that you're afraid, intimidated, you don't have the confidence. Acknowledge that in yourself, that's fine. But then figure out a way to actually still do what you want to do.
You know what also helps me, and maybe this is silly, I don't know, but I swear it does. And we don't talk about this much as a community of writers, and maybe we should talk about it more, is to confess that I screwed up. For example, I recently dropped my bike in a very stupid sort of a situation. I simply, I rolled up a hill and there was a slight incline and I kind of wasn't paying attention. And then I was putting my foot down and then I realized, oh, I'm going. And down I went. And there was school I just finished and there was a bunch of students. They all had a great time watching me fall. Obviously I picked my bike up and off I went. But these embarrassing things happen a lot, and they happen to, maybe only a lot to me, but they do happen to everybody regardless, one way or another. And it's just reality. And sometimes, especially with social media, we kind of project a certain image maybe. We're these, women adventure riders who have done these bigger trips or whatever. But the truth is that we still screw up. And so what helps to me is when somebody else says, oh yeah, I did that too. I totally dropped my bike in a stupid way or situation too. And I go like, really, you did? Oh, and I just kind of feel better about myself. So should we just talk more about all these kind of, silly or dumb or goofy situations that happen, because it's just human and natural, and it's totally okay to mess up once in a while?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just acknowledging that you don't have to be a superwoman, that's great. And one of the other things is, if you don't fail, you never progress. Like, you have to make mistakes to actually get to learn something. You have to make mistakes. I used to be a figure skater, and if I came off the ice after a training and I didn't fall once, I was pretty certain that I didn't learn anything that day. And that's how it is in life. Like, you have to screw up sometimes. And whether that's silly things or whether that's actually big mistakes, it doesn't really matter. But as long as you progress too. So for you to say, yeah, I dropped my bike in a silly place, I think everyone has dropped their bikes in a silly place. I dropped my bike when there was like 50 people watching. And it's because there was 50 people watching, and I was like, oh, I can't drop my bike now. And as soon as you think about it, that's exactly what's going to happen, because your brain doesn't listen to I cannot drop my bike. It listens to, oh, drop bike. Ooh, there you go. So yeah, absolutely. We should definitely talk about those mistakes that we make, those silly things that we do. I think we should put a post up probably just after this interview and ask people, what's the silliest place that you dropped your bike? Because it's part of life. And you're right. And when you go to social media, we like to just show all the good stuff. But I dare to bet a lot of money on it that all of us who've done these big trips at some point after a day have come to a hotel room and said, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. I dropped my bike 5 times. I'm tired. I'm muddy. I can't see. Like, my nails have been black for the last 3 years. And we just bawl our eyes out. And the next day we do it again. And we got to make those mistakes, and we might have to just show them a bit more too.
I do feel sometimes that there's a little more, or maybe significantly more, pressure on us as women adventure riders, because we're fairly new to the whole thing. Well, we're not actually fairly new to the whole thing, but the whole image, right, of motorcyclists mostly being men and all of that. And I've heard this from other women riders too, that they feel that they have to uphold a certain standard or something like that, that we're kind of not allowed to wear pink or cry or whatever. I have cried in my helmet, by the way. I confess right here and now I have a lot sometimes. And recently I've just been thinking, well, why, maybe we're just putting all this pressure on ourselves, because I don't think other people care all that much, or even our audiences or whatever. And so maybe we could just relax a little bit and just go ride, enjoy, and kind of stop pressuring ourselves as women to always be the, like you said, the super women.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're we quite easily take on this role of being an example for other people, operate into that role model, that we're also just human beings and we don't have to get it right all the time. We can all make mistakes, and just do it anyway. I think that would fit a lot of us quite well. And yeah, we might put it on ourselves, that pressure. I like, in general, other people care a lot less than we think they do.
Definitely.
So yeah, absolutely.
So if there would be some kind of I don't know, one maybe practice of mindfulness. I really love the palm tree example. I'm definitely going to try and use that, especially when I don't feel like riding that day maybe, or something's going on, to kind of refocus and also just practice gratitude that I'm even able to do this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But what would be like the number one mental skill that people could take away from this and think about it and maybe practice it as well as they ride or as they travel?
I think one of the things that people can do, and this might go a bit deeper than what we talked about before, but we get a lot of thoughts that we don't really want and are not very helpful to us. And so as you are riding and you're focusing on your environment, when you feel a thought drift in, that might say, oh, did you actually do the dishes today? Are they sitting in your sink right now? And it's like, well, that's really not helping me right now. And the stuff gets a bit when you think about personal stuff, it's a lot less light than doing the dishes. But what I've done before, and it works quite well, is you look around, and when these thoughts drift in, you say, oh, hello thought, you're not really helping me right now. It's okay, you can go away again. And I find places along the road, and I just literally like put my thought there. So it's riding along and looking at your palm trees, and this thought of whatever it is, don't be mad about it. So, for example, I had a lot of, if you read my book, you'll see there's a lot of relationship issues and things in there. So there was a lot of thoughts around that. And your mind easily gets stuck on, oh my God, how is it going to be like with this person? And but then this is happening, and then that is happening. And it really wasn't making me happy just thinking about all that stuff. And I cleared my mind one thought at a time by saying, oh, hello, thought. Yeah, you're not helping me right now. Let me just put you over there. You can go and now be in the parking area. There you go. Bye-bye. And it helped. And slowly you get better thoughts. That's what happens. Like, your thoughts never go away, and people say, oh, you got to quiet the monkey chatter. I don't know how it is for you, but for me, that's never going to happen. You just replace it with better monkey chatter, positive stuff instead of the negative stuff.
Awesome. I love this.
So, yeah.
This is some really, really great advice. This is great. I'm definitely going to try this. Chantal, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, check out the description below. Find out all about Chantal's tours and her book. And thanks again for being here. I hope we can do this again soon.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Thank you for having